Dear friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Nitesh Goyal from DAV College, Chandigarh. I am going to present before you the 38th module titled Report Writing under the paper Tourism and Hospitality Research. The module will cover the following topics: the introduction, the interpretation, importance of interpretation, precautions in interpretation, significance of report writing, different steps in report writing, layout of the research report, types of report, precautions for writing a research report, and finally the summary. Dear friends, after the completion of this module, you will be able to understand the meaning of interpretation, know about the points to be taken care of while writing a research report, understand the importance and types of reports, understand the procedure in report writing, understand how to present a final research report. Friends, so first of all, I would like to give you a brief introduction about the topic. After the whole process of research is undertaken, beginning from the problem definition to data collection to data analysis, the final task that remains for the researcher is to write a detailed report of what has been done. In simple words, a researcher now has to put in the words on the paper, what has been done. The importance of report arises due to the fact that mere undertaking the research does not serve the purpose until it is brought before the stakeholders and the society for the benefit of all. In this module, the learners will be able to get an insight into the ways that are adopted to write a report. The first topic in this module will be covered is interpretation. Any research is based on some data, whether primary or secondary, which is collected through different means. This collected data is then put for analysis by applying suitable statistical tools. Here comes the next task, that is, of interpreting the analyzed results. A report can be written only after drawing inferences from the analyzed data. The task of interpretation holds a lot of importance and has to be done with utmost care and due diligence, because if done wrongly, the results may take you to some misleading conclusions. It is only through the drawn interpretation and inferences only that the researcher can come up with the relations and processes that underline the research findings. Thus, in case the hypotheses are tested and upheld several times, the findings may tend to be generalized. Mere values that come out of the analysis do not imply anything, and thus shall be interpreted and well communicated. Thus, the interpretation refers to an activity of drawing inferences from the collected data after analyzing them. Interpretation helps in better understanding what has been observed by the researcher. It also endows a theoretical foundation and act as a guide for future researches. Let's now discuss the importance of interpretation. As stated earlier also, that the interpretation is an integral part of any research and hold lots of importance because of the following reasons. Firstly, it is the interpretation only which forms the basis of the research findings and makes the researcher and the reader understand it well. Through the interpretation, the researcher can link up findings of the study at hand with some similar previous studies and makes it easier to generalize the findings. Secondly, interpretation helps in establishment of the concepts that can further prove to be a guide for further research studies and opens new avenues for conducting more research and increase quest for more knowledge. It is through interpretation only through which the why, the whats and how of the findings can be better appreciated and also help make others to understand the real significance of the research findings. As going through the relevance of the interpretation, one thinks becomes very clear that wrong interpretation will lead to inaccurate conclusions, whatever be the quality of the collected data is. It is therefore writing of interpretation commands a lot of patience, impartiality, right perspective, and attention. A researcher should pay a lot of attention to the following points so as to do it correctly. Firstly, before undertaking the act of interpretation, following points should be adhered to, like the data should be appropriate, it should be trustworthy and adequate. Also, the data should be homogeneous and that the analysis should be done through appropriate statistical methods. Secondly, there is always a possibility of occurrence of errors while interpretation due to faulty generalization or due to faulty interpretation of the statistical measures. Thus, the researcher must keep himself cautious about such error. Thirdly, the another major risk while interpretation is the tendency to verify the relationships that may exist on the basis of some hypothesis. The researcher must have full knowledge of statistical measures and should also know the correct use of it. Fourthly, a researcher should always strive for development of constant interaction between the initial hypothesis, empirical observations, and the theoretical conceptions. Thus, special attention is required to be paid while engaging in the task of interpretation. Thus, keeping in view the above precautionary measures, it becomes easier for the researcher to interpret the obtained results. Friends, let us now discuss the significance of report writing. A research report has always been considered as one of the main components of any study. A research might have been conducted in a great manner, with good hypothesis, scientifically designed, and with fruitful results, which can be widely generalized, actually can prove to be little value till they are not communicated to those for whom it was meant and in a proper and appropriate manner. The results of the study must reach the masses, that is, the businesses, citizens, government, or whosoever is the stakeholder in that research. Keeping into view this high significance, report writing is kept as an integral part of the whole research process and not separate. It is actually the last step in the whole process and commands high degree of concentration and preciseness as compared to other steps. A slight mistake will lead to complete deviation from the actual results reported. Thus, the job of writing a report shall be done meticulously and the researcher should also not hesitate to take guidance and help of others in accomplishing this task. Research reports are the product of deliberate and thorough work. It usually involves following steps. First, the logical analysis of the subject matter. In the first step, the subject matter is developed and which can be developed in two broad ways. These ways can be logically and chronologically. The logical development is done on the basis of cognitive exercise and developing association between the variables concerned by the means of analysis. On the other hand, chronological development is based on a series of events that take place in a sequence of time. Number 2. Preparation of the main outline. Under this step, it is to prepare an outline for the report. It is a kind of basic framework and the structure upon which the whole document, whether in form of a book or an article, etc., are written. Outline for the report acts as an aid to the proper organization of all of the material and help put in a proper sequence which can make the reader more comfortable and understand the document easily. Number 3. Preparation of the rough draft. After preparing the basic framework and structure of the document, rough draft is prepared. Under this step, the researcher actually writes down the main content of the document or the research project. Thus, this step holds a great importance for any researcher. Under this step, the researcher lays down the procedure adopted for the various activities undertaken like data collection, data analysis, etc. The researcher will also mention the limitations of the study and any recommendations whatsoever. Number 4. Preparation of the bibliography. Next step in the process is to prepare the bibliography or the references. The bibliography is annexed at the end of the research report. The bibliography is kind of acknowledgement to all the authors whose work has helped the researcher to complete the study. There are various techniques and styles that can be adopted for writing of bibliography. The different styles of writing the bibliography are presented in the 40th module. Fifth, the final report. This step is the most difficult of all the steps of writing a report. This step is quite time consuming as a lot of revisions and rewriting is involved. Any weakness in the report should be checked and corrected. The final report commands a concise and objective style of writing. While writing the final report, the researcher shall adhere to simple and easily understandable language and avoid any technical jargons. As many illustrations and examples must be incorporated as is possible because they form an effective mode of communication of the research findings. Now friends, let's take out the layout of the research report. The layout of the report holds a great importance for the reader. It holds this importance due to the reason that conveying of the contents of the study in a proper manner. The presentation of the layout should not be such that it confuses the reader, rather focus on the main study. The layout of the report focuses on the presentation of sequence of the events. A comprehensive layout of the research report comprises, first of all, the preliminary pages. The preliminary pages are the initial pages of the report that are presented in the following sequence. This is the title page, the acknowledgements, the preface, the table of contents, list of tables and illustrations, the main body. Now the main body is the second part of the total layout. Main body of the report provides the complete structure and the text of the research report, supported with all details. The whole text of the research may be presented in single chapter or multiple chapters, depending upon the size of the report. However, the report should be presented under the following heads or say sections or say chapters. First chapter should be the introduction. This section gives the premise of conducting the study. It is like a preamble to the study. Second chapter should be review of literature. This section includes the review of some research studies that have been conducted previously in the similar area of research. The third chapter should be the methodology adopted. This section holds very important place in the whole study as it presents the methodology and the techniques adopted to undertake the whole study from the very beginning till the end. The fourth chapter should be the presentation, analysis and interpretation of data. Under this section, the whole research work is presented. This section generally includes the collected information, whether from primary or secondary source. The collected information is presented in form of tables and graphs. The data analysis and its interpretation are also presented under this section. This section may further be subdivided depending upon the size of the matter. Then comes the findings, recommendations and conclusions. This section of the main body includes the main findings of the study, any recommendations made or any suggestions made, along with a brief conclusion of the whole study. Then comes the chapter of summary. Many researchers include this section under the previous section only, but may be presented separately as well. This section will summarize the whole study, that is from introduction till the recommendations. Then comes the end matter. This part is the last section of the whole of the report. This section is further divided into subheads like the appendices, the bibliography and the index. Friends, let us now discuss the different types of reports. There is no specific measurement tool for the size and type of research reports. It may vary from a research to another research depending upon the problem under study. Thus, a research report may be of very few pages starting from only 2 to 3 pages and may extend to voluminous thousands of pages. It will also depend upon who are the stakeholders or the target audience of the report. A banker may like to have a short and crisp study based on the financial figures of the loan seeker. A PhD scholar would present a detailed report of what has been researched and alike. The above explanation throws some light on the premise that the reports may not be presented in the same manner. There can be a number of ways to do it. However, the reports can be broadly categorized as technical reports and popular reports. Let's take the technical reports first. A technical report is generally a detailed report of job undertaken and is mainly used for record keeping or for public dissemination. In a technical report, the emphasis is mainly on the methods employed, the assumptions undertaken, and the detailed presentation of the findings, including their limitations and the supporting data. A general outline of a technical report can be as follows. First, the summary of results. The results of the study are to be briefed here in just 2 pages. Secondly, nature of the study. This part includes describing the objectives of the study, hypothesis formulated, data analysis, and other alike things. Thirdly, the methods employed. This part details a sketch of the methods and techniques that are adopted in the study and limitations thereof. This may include methods or techniques used for deciding the sample size, sample frame, data collection, etc. The fourth is the data. This part includes all the relevant information about the collected data, its main characteristics, and also any limitations thereof. Then comes the data analysis. The data analysis part details the analysis component that has been applied on the collected data. This part also includes the findings of the study along with the supporting data. This data is generally presented in forms of tables, graphs, figures, etc. This part actually forms the key content of the main body. Sixth is the conclusions. Conclusions part presents a brief summary of whole of the research study and also includes any policy implications drawn from the results obtained. Then comes the bibliography. This part includes presentation of an alphabetical list of the articles, research papers, books, or some other literature in a systematic manner and is presented at the end of the report. Then comes the appendices. This part presents all the supplementary technical data pertaining to any questionnaire used, any mathematical derivations, explanation of any specific technique of analysis, and similar things. Next comes the index. Index is an alphabetical list of various concepts, names, etc. used in the report along with corresponding page numbers. The above presented order of presentation is just indicative and gives a bird's eye view of the technical report. However, the above order of presentation need not be exactly followed and the researcher may modify it depending upon his or her own requirements. Thus, the overall presentation of the report may differ in case to case. The researcher may give some other name to the above listed sections. However, there is one thing that has to be given due importance is that in any technical report, the presentation should be simple, focused, understandable, and makes the findings readily available. The charts and graphs should be extensively used in any technical report. The other category of the report is the popular report. As per the earlier type of report, which was more technical and included more technical terms, a popular report, as the name suggests, is more focused on the presentation style, making it more appealing and attractive. The report is made more attractive by using such an layout that has readable print, subheadings, and frequent use of related pictures. Unlike a technical report, a popular report is simpler and prepared in such a manner that appeals the masses. This includes some precautions like avoidance of mathematical and technical details, but liberal use of charts and diagram. The popular report does not focus much on the methods and techniques used to undertake the study. Rather, the focus is on the findings and its practical applicability in the real life situations. Following is the general outline of a popular report. First, the objectives of the study. Presentation of the objectives is utmost importance for any research study as the reader must know the direction of the study and not to get misled. Second, the methods employed. It includes a brief and simple explanation of the methods and techniques applied in the study. This part is kept very short and crisp, and the presentation of technical details is avoided. Third, the findings and their implications. As stated earlier also, the main focus of a popular study is on the findings and outcomes from the study and how it can actually be applied in the real life situations faced by the general public and the industry. Fourth part is the recommendations for action. Since the main focus is on the practical implications under the popular report, this section holds a lot of importance, as this part gives recommendations and makes suggestions for further course of action. The fifth part is the appendices. It is this part where the technical details can be provided for those who want an in-depth study of the research undertaken. Here, the researcher can give the detailed information regarding the methods and techniques adopted. As in technical report, the layout need not be same as presented in this module. A researcher preparing a popular report need not follow exactly the above presented sequence. Thus, there can be variations in the form of presentation depending upon the requirements and the wisdom of the researcher. However, the researcher should keep in mind one thing, that it being a popular report and addressed to the masses, it should be kept simple and be focused on the findings and their implications on one and society. Also, use of technical details and jargons should be avoided to the level possible. Friends, let's now take out some precautions to be taken for writing a research report. A research report is a process to pass on to its target audience the research findings and make suggestions for decision taking. Thus, a good research report is the one which performs its job effectively and communicate in the proper and desired manner. Thus, a researcher must be cautious while preparing the report of his study. He should keep following precautions while making a research report. The length of the report, it is very important consideration. The length should be appropriate, that is, it should be long enough so that it includes all the aspects of the report but should not be very lengthy. And on the other hand, it should be short enough that it includes the relevant information but should not be so short that it misses few points. Number 2, the writing style. The writing style of the report should be such that it creates inquisitiveness in the mind of the reader. To make it more interesting, use of graphs, images, charts, etc. is encouraged instead of numerical figures. Graphical presentation in place of numerical figures connects the reader with the report. Third, any abstract terminology and any technical jargons should be avoided. It should be avoided especially if it is meant for general public or an audience that is not technically sound. Thus, the researcher must use simple words and should write objectively. The language should not be such that it makes the report more confusing. Fourth, the research reports should be free from any grammatical mistakes. It should be prepared by adhering to the techniques of composition of writing. Thus, it is always advised that before finalizing the report, the researcher should get it reviewed through some language expert to check its language, grammatical and other aspects. Fifth, proper precaution should be taken while stating the objectives. The objectives might be clear in the researcher's mind. When he puts it on paper, it be written clearly and cover what it actually wants to convey. Along with the objectives, proper care should be taken while presenting the methods adopted, tools of analysis used and similar things. Sixth, the researcher should not forget to pay attention on presenting the policy implications of the findings of the study. The whole purpose of the study gets defeated if it cannot be applied in a proper and desired manner in the society. Seventh, preparing a systematic bibliography is very important, as it helps the reader to know the sources from where the work used in the study has been taken. Number 8, Utmost care should be taken while preparing an index of the study. Preparing an index may consume a lot of time, which sometimes leads to disinterest in preparing it and may miss few items to be presented in the index. Friends, let us now sum up the whole module. Doing research may be called as a scientific job, but presenting a report is an artistic job, wherein the researcher has to present what all has been done. It has to be presented in such a manner that it is well understood and in a manner as is desired to be understood. There can be different types of reports depending upon the person or the agency doing the research, and also depending on who the sponsor of the research is. In the different types of reports, the layout will also differ. However, as stated earlier, that it is an artistic job, the researcher enjoys the authority to modify the overall layout and present the whole report as per his own wisdom. Being said that researcher enjoys the authorities for any modification, it is also important to mention here that the researcher should take utmost care while writing the report. He should write it in a language that is not difficult to comprehend and thus understand. Thank you.